Hello, people of Reddit. I am a first-time poster, so I apologize if I make a mistake. I have been reading Ava and relationship advice posts for over a month now. And today I decided to make a post and ask strangers how to fix things if I am in the wrong. Here we go. While I was looking for a job, my brother offered to help and I moved in with him. I was so grateful. I cleaned the house, prepared our meals, did everything around the house. My boyfriend felt responsible for me and brought bags of groceries every day to compensate for what I ate. After a month, I threw away a trash bin swarming with worms. I replaced it with the exact same thing. My brother told me I had no right and kicked me out. I moved in with my boyfriend. The next day my mother called. I never tell her anything. She said, "It is your fault. It is his house. You don't have the right to his stuff. He is your brother. You gotta obey him." Not long after, I found an amazing job in house. My boyfriend and I moved in together. I wanted to help my brother and told him that he could live with us for a couple of months, save money, and move into a better place. I told him not to worry about the rent and other utilities because we are family. He did nothing around the house. I bought a TV and my brother became obsessed with it. He would watch TV all day every day. One day I told my brother dinner was ready. He turned the TV on and left the room. I was laying the table and I opened a news channel. He came back and complained, switched the channel back. I told him we should watch something that we can all enjoy. He insisted that he came first. We were gonna watch what he wanted to watch. I told him to switch back. He did not. I told him to give me the remote control and he did not. After demanding the remote control the 10th time, he threw it on the floor. I told him he cannot throw stuff in my house because it did not belong to him. I told him he was not doing anything in the house to help, but at least let us rest and enjoy our day while we can. For context, my boyfriend and I both study for our postgraduates, have jobs and work in the house. He screamed and cursed me. Next day, my mother called and asked what happened, and I refused to answer. She then told me it was my fault and told me to be polite to him because he was a guest. He was my brother and I gotta obey him. 2 weeks ago, I broke my ankle. Last Friday, I was working on my assignments with this excruciating pain in my ankle. My mother called and I refused to make a comment on the fight. She then started to cry saying brother had to order takeout. We did not have food. I then realized I was so busy working and trying to make it to the deadline that I forgot to eat. It was not important, of course. My brother had to order takeout. Unthinkable. Today my brother said, "As your brother I came and am apologizing for cursing at you. I know I am right in the fight, so I expect you to apologize." I told him I did nothing wrong and was not going to apologize. He told me I was sick in the head. He was saying things as if my mother was talking. He told me I had NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. He was done and I was dead to him. My boyfriend told me my brother suffers from favoritism. For some context, my parents got divorced when I was around 13 because my father cheated on my mother. I have had no contact with my father for over 10 years. My mother, for some reason, blamed me for their divorce. She used to come to my bed late at night, shake me up and tell me I was the cause of her failed marriage. We never had a good relationship, but this divorce made everything far worse for us. Whenever we had a problem, she would say that I am sick in the head, crazy, mental, and was in urgent need for help. As a 14-year-old kid who did not know better, I actually did seek help and made an appointment with a therapist. The therapist told me that she needed to see my mother too. I don't know what the therapist told my mother, but we never visited her again. Sometimes my mother would tell me that the therapist told her I was crazy and a psychopath. If it was the case, why didn't my mother help me by taking me to the therapist? Isn't it what mothers do? Help their kids? I have a brother, the golden child, who got all the nice things, praises, and whatnot when we grew up like any other golden child. I am not going to bother you with how he is the golden child and I am the unwanted kid, or it would take forever. My brother and I are university graduates. I studied in a foreign country for post-graduation, and last year, I came back and started looking for a job in my home country. I wanted to work in the same city where I studied in university, where my long-term boyfriend lives, where all my friends are, and of course where my mother does not exist. While I was looking for a job, my brother offered to help, and I moved in with him. He used to live alone in an old student apartment. I was so grateful that I cleaned the house, prepared our meals, did the laundry, and in short pretty much did everything around the house. My long-term boyfriend is good friends with my brother. Boyfriend used to come for dinner every night and we would hang out. My boyfriend felt responsible for me and brought bags of groceries every day to compensate for what he and I ate. I am a very independent woman and did my best not to become a burden on my brother both financially and emotionally. After a month, during the holidays, my brother went to see our mother while I went with my boyfriend to visit his parents, who are amazing people too. We left a day earlier than my brother and told him specifically to take out the garbage before leaving because we were going to be away for 10 days in the middle of the summer heat. We arrived a day before and guess what? He left the trash bin as it is on the counter. When I looked at it, I saw hundreds of worms swarming in it. I was cleaning the house and threw the bin away. We bought a new trash bin, mind you. It was the exact same bin with the same color. When my brother came a day later, I told him what happened. He started yelling. His face turned red with veins pumping and walking on me. He was screaming at me and blamed me for making decisions in his home without asking him first. It was his house. I did not have the right to throw the bin away. It did not matter if it was a $2 bin. It was his. I could not believe my ears. I was being yelled at for a trash bin that I replaced. I told him I would do the same if it happens again because it was gross. He then told me to leave his house. I did and moved in with my boyfriend and his roommate. The next day, my mother called me and asked what happened. She asks these questions, but she never listens. She believes what she wants to believe. Me trying to explain to her my side does not mean anything. So I told her I did not want to talk about what happened. She says, "It is your fault. It is his house. You don't have the right to his stuff. He is your brother. You gotta obey him." I lived with my boyfriend and his roommate for 5 months. They both are lovely people and never made me feel unwanted even for a second. It was a tough time for me. No house, no job, no money. Not long after, I found an amazing job, found an amazing house and boyfriend, and I moved in together. I wanted to help my brother like how he helped me. His house was falling apart, old, dirty, inconvenient, and pretty expensive for only one person. I told him that he could live with us for a couple of months, save money, and move into a better place. I told him not to worry about the rent and other utilities because we are family, right? This is what families do for each other, right? It was a good call because a week later our country went crazy with coronavirus. He moved in with us just in time. My boyfriend and I started buying furniture, a happy lamp there, a little table here. It became our house that we built ourselves. My brother never cooked, cleaned, bought groceries, or offered any help around the house. I felt it was inconvenient, but he was our guest. I was repaying my debt to him. 2 weeks later, I bought a TV for all of us. This is important. My brother became obsessed with this TV. He would watch movies, documentaries, and shows all day, every day. We were working from home, so he had all the time in the world. One day, my boyfriend and I were preparing the meal in the kitchen. I told my brother that the food was ready. He turned the TV on and left the room. While I was laying the table, I switched the channel to a news channel. He then came back and complained about the news and switched the channel back. I told him we should all watch something that we can all enjoy. He insisted that he came first. We were gonna watch what he wanted to watch. I told him to switch back. He did not. I told him to give me the remote control, and he did not. After demanding the remote control the 10th time, he threw it away to the floor. I told him he cannot throw stuff in my house because it did not belong to him. I told him he was not doing anything in the house to help, but at least let us rest and enjoy our life while we can. For context, my boyfriend and I both study for our postgraduates, have jobs and work in the house. My brother got up and started yelling. He screamed that my job is easy, but his job is very difficult. He was working his ass off, and we were just writing emails for the show. I told him I was not gonna apologize for having a nice job. I worked hard for what I have. He then belittles me and my achievements. Not gonna lie, I did the same. I belittled his achievements. He then cursed at me, which is a taboo for me too. My mother curses at me for the simplest, stupid things, so it became a taboo for me, something I would never do to my family. I find it very rude and unforgivable. We stopped talking. Next day, my mother called me, asked what happened, and I refused to answer. She then told me it was my fault and told me to be polite to him because he was a guest in our house. We made him uncomfortable. He was my brother, and I gotta obey him. If there wasn't a lockdown, she would have come and placed his child into a better house. A 30-year-old man-child. Hypocrite. Yeah, I know. It has been 3 months since we stopped talking. 2 weeks ago, I broke my ankle and started working from home again. Last Friday was a tough day for me. I had assignments lined up, Excel sheets I needed to work on, and this constant, excruciating pain in my ankle. Late at night, my mother called and asked me to listen to her about my brother. I told her I can listen, but only listen. Nothing, she says, can change what I think, and I refuse to make a comment on the fight we had with my brother. She then started to cry and told me my brother had to order takeout because there was not food in the house. I then realized I was so busy working and trying to make it to the deadline that I forgot to eat. It was not important, of course. My brother had to order takeout. Unthinkable. Today, I was laying down and watching TV. My brother came to me and said, "As your brother, I came and am apologizing for cursing at you. I know I am right in the fight, so I expect you to apologize." I told him I did nothing wrong and was not going to apologize. He said that I was 100% in the wrong. When I refused, he told me I was sick in the head. I was crazy and ill. He was saying things as if my mother was talking. He told me I had narcissistic personality disorder. I was selfish, spoiled, self-centered, and all the dirty things as he claimed. He told me he was done and I was dead to him. I asked Mike what he thought. He told me my brother suffers from favoritism. I remember that 14-year-old girl now. Should I do what I did years ago? Or am I being manipulated into thinking I am mentally ill as they claimed? I usually blame myself for everything. I went to 2 more therapists, one overseas, one here. After our talks, they told me I was not mentally ill. I don't know. If someone tells you something for years, you start to doubt yourself. What if they are right? What if I am right? What should I do? Thank you for reading. After reading your comments and discussing them with my BF, I decided to call my mother and explain what really happened. So I called, tried to tell the story from my perspective. I started off by saying, I am not her, and her worldviews do not necessarily reflect mine. She interrupted me 100 times as she does. She did not even try to see things from my side. As we all guessed, she sided with my brother. It was an 1-hour call, so I might skip certain things, but I remember her blaming me for leaving food in the refrigerator for my brother. Apparently, paying the bills, cleaning, doing the laundry, and cooking are not enough. I also have to call him to the table and make sure he does eat. Her exact words were, "You are treating him as if he is a stray dog." I will let this sink in for you guys. Surprisingly, she did not know my brother does not pay for anything. It is very convenient that my brother forgot to tell her this. She denied always siding with him. I told her to give me one example when she sided with me. She could not. Well, of course. At the end of our call, I told her I am used to not having a mother in my life, but if she truly loves my brother, she should stop spoiling him. He never had a DF, does not have friends, and is the most selfish person I have ever seen. He expects everything to be served on a silver platter. She was shocked as if she never realized that my brother doesn't have anyone beside us. I told her to think about what I told her and call me back in 2 hours if she agrees with me. She did call to my surprise and told me that I am a very compassionate and a good-hearted girl. This could be the very first time she ever said something nice about me. I thanked her and asked for a favor, but she will have to accept beforehand. She agreed, and I told her to stay out of our arguments with my brother. He always thinks he is in the right because she sides with him unconditionally. It is always 2 vs 1 against me. We will see if she keeps her promise. Later that night, I walked in my brother's room and told him I was hurt not because he threw the TV remote or not following my rules, but because I don't deserve to be called names in my own house at the age of 28. He apologized for swearing and screaming and agreed not to do that anymore. I told him I am not the sole decision maker in our house, and I have to respect my BF's wishes as well. Since he has been a burden for us emotionally, financially, and physically, we both appreciate it if he could find his own place as soon as possible. I told him even though he kicked me out, I will never do that to him. Bia told him he can stay with us until he finds his own place. He is still with us. He tries to help around the house. After writing my update, I asked my brother if he intends to follow our plan for him to move out by the end of August. He raised his eyebrows and kept quiet. I told him we had an agreement. We showed respect and patience, but he did not change one bit. He got offended and left the room. He said, there is a right time for everything. He already has a job that he has been working for 3 years, but he applied for another job, and he is currently waiting for a response. I didn't even know he applied for a new job until recently. He is reluctant to move out before an answer, so he wants to wait and see. I totally understand why he does what he does, but 5 minutes later, Mother called and told me we kicked him out. I cannot understand how in the whole wide world I ended up being the bad guy who kicked her brother out. I told her repeatedly that I did not kick him out. She did not listen as always. I told her again that my brother does not pay or do anything. My bonuses were cut because of my ankle. The project my boyfriend was working on got suspended for 4 months. Moreover, VF is about to finish his thesis, so he is very stressed out. We are having financial difficulties and I am spending my emergency fund. My brother knows this and still did not even offer to pay for anything. He even told me he saved up 30 since he moved in with us. I don't want his money. I don't need his money, but it would be nice if he offered. Mother told me she is going to tell him to pay our rent. I told her to stay out of our arguments like we agreed. She believes she should meddle in our lives as if we are children. I understand she tries to help, but at the end of the day she makes everything worse. I feel she doesn't care about solving the problem, but she wants to find the guilty kid. Next day we came home and saw my brother cooking. He cooked for us for the following days and told me that he can cover the rent and utilities. I kindly declined his offer. I did not tell him this, but I know for a fact that if I accept his money, my mother and brother will remind me of this for the rest of my life. They have this urge to remind you of every little thing they do for you. Couple of days ago, my brother and I got into one of our silly arguments. He again started yelling and screaming. I just kept quiet and watched him. I tried to understand why he was so angry. I asked, "Why are you yelling at me as if I am your enemy?" He stopped and started crying. He told me that he thinks he is misunderstood and it frustrates him. At that moment, my heart ached and I hugged him. He cried on my shoulder and kissed me on the cheek. We ended the argument with smiles. Yesterday, he took me out shopping and we shared a dinner, just the two of us. I know many of you are disappointed with me. I am one of those people who believes others mistreating us might be a cry for help. I am trying to be a good sister. Thank you. P.S. 5 minutes after writing this update, BF asked for a date again and he got offended and did not respond. I keep asking him every day to see if he ever gives me an answer. BF said he doesn't have the patience and will be staying with his friend until my brother moves out. Now, I find myself pressuring him to move out and it sickens me. I do not want to kick him out and turn into him. What should I do? My brother moved into his new house. He says he is still paying for his new furniture. He even invited us for dinner. I am still with my BF and we are so happy, just as the two of us. My mother, on the other hand, is upset that I kicked him out before the corona vaccine. Everything is fine. Thanks so much for your time.